So we crossed the barrier, feeling the freezing cold bite on my skin once again. I reached into the other and located my backpack. Hardly an effort, considering it was filled to the brim with enchantments. I searched for a single lone harpy to capture. I looked to the skies, and then to the ground. Behind me, Theo and Marx dragged a sled, one we would use to transport the creature. Kaz toyed with a rifle. "Found one," I told. Theo, too, reached into the other.
"Near the place where I found you?"
I nodded.
"What's that near it? An object of incredible dissonance."
"My backpack," I continued, quietly walking through the snow, doing our best to be as small and quiet as possible. The storm and circling harpies flew overhead, casting shadows of death upon the ground. Marx raised a hand.
"Stop!"
he hissed. We were nearly there.
"Look!"
And it was there. A single harpy, feasting upon a corpse of a frozen-over alligator. My backpack sat next to it, waiting for me to claim it. "Readied," Kaz informed, rifle trained on the creature.
"As am I,"
Theo announced, preparing. Marx did the same. I remembered what I had been brought here for. "Wait!" I held a hand up. "Let me try first." I replaced my inhibitor gloves with the whalebone gloves and felt the world come into focus. I reached out and felt the pure essence of the harpy, the lifeblood and memory of the creature. I felt its mind, small, animalistic upon mine, and I seized it, twisting and beckoning for it to come forwards. That's when I lost control. It snapped out, shook itself clear, and charged straight for us. Theo pushed me aside as it charged through the brush. Kaz fired at it, darts whipping through the air. So did Marx, great rounds of salt creating a fine mist in the air. The harpy did not seem bothered, and turned to charge again. And then it went for me, and my hands went up into the other, all of my might seizing its powerful mind. I stopped the creature mid-charge, slamming it into the ground. "Get it!" I held in place, struggling against the creature's desire to be free. Harder than bending a tree. "Now!" The power was practically being drained from me, and yet I felt more connected than ever, the whalebone amplifying my mind. "Over here!" a distant Kaz yelled. "The sled!" And then the creature's mind dimmed, and I let go, watching it fall to the ground, unconscious.
"Aster!"
Theo shouted, rushing to me as I sat down, dazed.
"You okay?"
My will was growing weak now, taken by the struggle. "My backpack," I murmured. Theo retrieved the backpack for me, and I rushed into it, retrieving a small vial of yellow enchanted honey. I drank, and I felt myself restored. "Let's go." I noted that 2 harpies were beginning to drop down, investigating us. "They're coming." He nodded, called the others, and we strapped the harpy to the sled, pulling it through the snow. We continued, passing the bridge until we made it into town, safe, warmer, and the day and mission complete. A woman awaited us when we arrived in Theo's laboratory, a little place on the far edge of town. "Wren Alderwood," she introduced. "I assume you must be Theodore Ogland." Theo nodded, confirming.
"I thought you were coming in tomorrow."
She stepped forwards to examine the creature. "Indeed, but I have received several rather unfortunate stories of creatures like these." She dug out a file filled with rather disturbing photographs. "Over the past month, a line from up north where I came from, stretching down here." "You mean to say those creatures travelled up here from up north?" I inquired. Wren nodded gravely. "This appears to be a—" She inspected the black feathers. "Male Philagos harpy." She shook her head in puzzlement. "This storm has been popping up for hours at a time for the past month, only persisting a few hours, never spending weeks, as your town has suffered."
"What,"
Theo began,
"could be the cause?"
A grim look came upon her face. "I've been researching Flago harpy migration patterns for years, and this does not mark one I recognise," she confessed. "However, there are ancient tales that tell us something akin to this." Max grunted.
"Well, tell us, damn it. No use waiting around."
Wren sighed. "A king of harpies and the forever storm. An Alcyon," she detailed. "I suppose it has risen from hibernation to fly amongst us once again. Not even the theory of disbelief can fight against something born of the elements. All may bear witness to it, if one flies close enough." If I hadn't seen such a great thing, it must have been further above the clouds. A massive, mythological creature of the elements, one that dwarfed even the largest of ocean whales. The dragon of the forever storm, Max breathed quietly. He turned to Theo and Kaz.
I told you we need a specialist.
Theo waved him off.
Why is it staying here?
Ren simply shrugged. It must be attracted to something here. Max sighed and stepped back.
I think I know why.
Kaz asked the hunter then.
2 decades ago, I was up north helping with a hunt, and Nightcafe on the loose, some mountain I can barely remember.
He stepped back and sat down, sighing.
I found this cavern, and I found an egg.
Max continued to tell the story. The Nightcafe, a local deity of the mountain, turned to corruption by pollution, on the rampage, had killed dozens of villagers and townsmen. The cause was a mining company exploiting the place, cutting down trees and drilling deep holes into the earth. And then, in one of the caverns drilled and found by the men, the egg was discovered. Max was escaping the power of the Nightcafe when he stumbled upon it. The creature chased him into the caverns and, lost in the darkness and cold, found the egg. The stone-blue egg was powerful to the touch, and the sight of it even made the Nightcafe back out in fear. Max collected it, cornering and decorrupting the former deity, and then, after a week of watching if the parent of the egg would come, took it with him. He showed us to a little room in the bark, covered in trophies of slain beasts and devils.
Look, he said,
throwing us the egg.
It's been acting odd this past week.
Kaz asked, Odd how? The egg seemed to shake, gusts of hot air jetting out.
That.
I spoke next. If what's causing the storm is an Alcyon, I theorized, perhaps it is looking to reclaim the egg. Its child. Ren nodded along. Indeed. Once reunited, the dragon should return to its native lands, hopefully back to hibernation. Or to the other side. Theo agreed with me, nodding.
However, how can we reunite them? And how do we ensure it will leave us the hell alone?
A rather ridiculous idea was coming to my mind. I've learned I can control the will of creatures.
You'll never be able to control the dragon of the forever storm, Max argued. That's insane.
I shook my head in disagreement. I don't need to control it. I merely need to suggest it to, say, land somewhere we can reunite them, and suggest to it to leave us alone.
Are you certain you can do this?
Theo pointed out. I myself was unsure, but something about me told me I had to try. I looked at the whale gloves, and then back at the others. I can try.
This isn't something possible, Max warned. I suggest, like I have, to call in a specialist. You will not call in a specialist,
Theo snarled.
We've worked too hard here for the company to take everything all away.
Max sat in a chair, sighing.
It's too late. I already have.
When? Kaz snapped.
Yesterday.
Theo walked out of the room, and we followed, leaving the hunter behind.
We have to do this now, before the company comes and tries to handle the situation. They would much rather slay the beast than attempt a peaceful transition.
Ren, the researcher, spoke next. I synthesized the Alcyon coal in my studies. It will help lure it towards us. Kaz nodded next. The swamps outside should make a safer place to cool it down. Aster, are you ready? I nodded. Before the company comes. Now. Kaz and Theo walked ahead to a supply building, and so did I when Max called me. He seemed shaken and tired, but nonetheless himself.
Aster.
What now?
He looked at me grimly. I looked through the company listings. You're wanted for unauthorized magic, are you not?
I nodded.
Then I suggest you leave before they get here. I may think they can handle this better,
but they've got a rather polarized view on the gifted. I shook my head. I will stay and help. Store the company for as long as you can. I would hate to be arrested by those so-called authorities. Max nodded and retreated. I joined my now friends at the bridge, and together, me, Theo, Kaz and Ren, set on and journeyed into the frozen swamplands. We walked in silence, each of us doubting the success of our mission. But still, the weight and power of the company carried us forwards. Whatever would get them away, hopefully, to solve it before they came. It was dark now. The stars had risen, and the chariot of the sun had fallen. The only thing that lit us forwards were the lights conjured by Theo. We came across a massive lake, frozen over. "Here works," Kaz suggested. Theo enchanted our footing, and we walked calmly over the ice. And then I heard a screech and, "Watch out!" A collared harpy struck through the air, and I hopped back, avoiding it as it slammed into the ice, gliding away. "Ren!" I ordered. "Set up your call!"
"Aster!"
Theo cut in.
"Go to her. Me and Kaz will deal with this."
"We will?" Kaz blinked, confused. "Oh." Theo rushed at the creature as I sat up, slipping on the ice. It snarled, spider eyes dilating widely. It struck. Kaz fired. Theo brought his hatchet down upon it. It fell through, defeated. "Now!" Ren shouted, her strange device pointing to the sky. The noise of the creature, a voice of wondrous harmony, was deafening. 3 harpies dropped down to investigate. "This won't be enough, Aster! Call it down!" I sat on the ice. I slipped on the whale gloves and opened my mind. I could see the essence of the creature in my mind's eye, clear as the stars in the sky. I uttered a quick prayer to the star whale as I entered the mind of the dragon. It fought back, but I redoubled my efforts. I called it forth, seeding the information in its mind. The egg, I suddenly realised. "Give it to me!" Someone handed me the object, and I placed a hand on it, transmitting its power, its aura, to the Alcyon above. The power of the egg coursed through me, and I showed it to the dragon, images upon its mind. And then I was shaken out of it, and I looked to the heavens. A great, magnificent thing was barreling straight down for us, marked in blues and reds and greens and the gold patterns on the harpies. It was 6-winged, each a different colour, and serpentine. And then I noticed the great beak and powerful 4 red eyes, heading towards me. I saw Theo out of the corner of my eye.
"Aster!" he shouted. "Out of the way!"
And he slammed himself into me, and the 2 of us slid across the ice. And then the gold beak of the Alcyon struck into the ice, the shockwave casting us all into the air. The egg bounced upwards, landing near me. I seized it and prepared myself. I looked around. "Where's Ren and Kaz?" Theo shook his head. He didn't know. And then the great dragon of the forever storm lunged out of the ice, a long slender neck eyeing us both. I looked back and presented the egg. "We," I reached into its mind, "aren't here to hurt you, just to bring this back." It flew out, wings carrying it a distance above us. "Look!" I shouted. I set the stone blue egg onto the ice. "We just want this storm to end." I felt its mind calm, and I opened my thoughts into it. I gave it my memories of the storm, of the ice, of the town and what had happened, and the Alcyon landed gracefully nearby, unseen magic allowing the ice to carry it. It used its long serpentine shape, and its head neared us. "We just want the storm to end." I felt its mind at ease, and so was mine. It seized the egg into its jaws and swallowed it, to my surprise. "Not to worry," a familiar voice assured. It was Ren, joined with Kaz behind us. "I've always suspected they carry their young in a pocket within their jaws." My mind linked with the creature, then told it to return, to leave us in peace. And it did so, opening into my mind, showing its home and distant memories of another world. That's when I felt a sharp pain in my hands, and I fell out of the trance. I heard the dragon hiss and heard gunfire. "What the hell?" I shouted, blood leaking from the gloves. There was a whooshing in the air, planes that appeared from strange mirror-like fractures. These same portals appeared on the ice, and from the fractures emerged men in uniform, black and green, with a 7 sewn into their cloth.
"It's the company!"
Theo shouted. The Alcyon snarled, looked at us, and charged.
"Out of the way!"
The Alcyon's neck slammed to the ground, nearly missing us and knocking us off guard, covered in snow. A web-like fracture opened beside me, and 2 men in uniforms appeared, toting large rifles and firing at the dragon. "Stop that!" I shouted. They ignored me, firing rounds at the Alcyon, enchanted bullets seeking out weak points. "Stop it!" One of them practically grunted and stared at me. "Who do you think you are? This is now company!" The noise of the gunfire had drawn the attention of a pair of harpies. "Oh!" The first one struck the man, claws tearing into his skin. He screamed. I took his rifle and fired it. Missing. The jet-black Harpy was joined by a coloured one, and together they lifted the agonal screaming man into the air. "Bob, I need—" The other man looked around, confused. He saw the Harpies lifting up the man, backed away and started firing. "Take that!" The Harpies retreated as he stepped on the ice. "This is the might of the—" And then the jaws of the Alcyon fell from the heavens, devouring him in full. "Look!" Kaz hissed, pointing upwards to the skies. Great machines appeared from the fractures, great nets firing and swarming the creature. On the ice, company men fought with the great lord of the snow and the surrounding Harpies, shot against shot. "We were so close," I growled. I stepped forth onto the ice and yelled, "Stop!" And then I saw him, the one who had written the report that led to my status on the run. A multicoloured sweater fit a man, with a rather naive, though I knew he was anything but, look as he commanded his people. "Canopy Hydrangea!" I snapped. He seemed rather confused to see me, but kept his demeanour. "Aster Mills, you will be taken into our custody for the use of—" Two agents that flanked him began to walk towards me. "Unauthorised magic." They flanked me now. "Sale of a deadly artefact." He looked me in the eye. "And accessory to the deaths of company agents." I looked back at him. "I did what was necessary to survive. Now stop this madness." I gestured to the skies. "We were this close to ending this when—" He ignored me. "Cuff her, now." The two moved closer. He spoke into the radio. "I want the creature and the egg in company hands." I reached into the other, the whale gloves enhancing me once again. I entered the mind of the two approaching men and made them stop. They fell to the floor, incapacitated. Canopy's eyes grew wide. "You're an oil baron witch!" I raised my hand to control him, but he did the same, his mind raising a shield. "Nothing more to be expected from a wildling gifted like you." I redoubled my reach. "Stop this!" I poured the memories of the truth into his mind. "Now!" He shook his head and uttered a spell, shielding him further. "Wildling lies!" And then I felt fire surround me. I dispelled the living flame and fell to the ice. Behind Canopy, the Alcyon fell to the ice, into the water. The plane started to bring it into the air now, lifting it. Canopy looked at it in awe and spoke. "Let's start over. Perhaps you believe the company is an errant organisation, but—" He eyed Theo, who, in the distance, started to walk towards us. "It was his grandfather who created it." Theo shouted back, "Janus was wrong." Canopy shook his head. "He was right. All the curses in the world." He reached out and froze me in place, invisible bonds holding me. "All the dangerous beasts that crossed over from the other side." He practically heaved at the thought. "The world is so much safer now. Look how much we have prospered." The bonds struck me down. "What the hell makes you hate the other naturals so much?" I questioned. "What?" I felt the spell bonds loosen, ever so slightly, then tighten. "I will not speak of this any longer." "Let her go," Theo pleaded. "She has tried and risked everything for this creature." Canopy looked at him and shook his head. "There are not many, even among our kind, brave and kind for such a feat. She has to be detained and—" Bang! Theo fired into the air, right beside Canopy. The bullet caught in thin air, then falling to the floor. "I am afraid you have missed." The invisible bonds caught him too. And then the bullet glowed white, with a rune I did not recognise. Enchanted, I saw Theo with a cunning smile, and a blast of otherworldly heat hit us all. The ice below us cracked. Canopy looked in horror, releasing us from the concentration of his mind, and we fell through the ice, cracking, melting, and enveloping the entire lake. I swam and tried to get to higher ground. I found Theo, and together we rose to the edge of the lake, rising onto the earth. The Alcyon plunged into the depths, weight so heavy it severed the rope connecting it to the dozens of drones and planes attempting to carry it away. These machines too fell into the ice or crashed into each other, burning great falling stars of pain onto the world. Canopy emerged from the ice a second later, a grim look ready to ensnare us. I reached out, weak, but found the mind of two Harpies and brought them forward, sending them diving into the company operator. He fought with spells of ice and fire, and we ran, hearing him scream in the distance. And then there was the smell of roasted flesh, and something electric. My hunter had not yet been vanquished. Theo looked at me and said a single word.
Run!
And so I did. Into the wilds, into the swamp, as far as my legs could take me, until I collapsed on the banks of a melting river, and finally looked back. No one was chasing me now. In the distance, I saw the great Alcyon rise into the air, machines chasing after it once again. I was tempted to stray back, but remembered my newfound ally's words. Run. I could not help them any longer. It was out of my control. I accepted this fact. There are things, no matter how terrible, that one cannot control. I ran.